한국 최고의 싸움꾼 시라소니와 핵주먹 마이 타이슨이 싸우면 누가 이길까? 현 시대 최고의 격투가는 누구일까 같은 문제는 시대와 지역을 막론하고 누구나 관심을 갖는 주제입니다. 특히 미국 사회에서는 길을 다니면서도 언제 어떤 일을 당할지 아무도 모르는 일이기에 폭력에 노출됐을 때 어떤 무술을 사용해야 상대를 제압하고 나의 생명과 신체를 지킬 수 있을지, 현존하는 가장 강한 무술은 무엇일지 유독 관심이 많은 편입니다. 그렇다면 대한민국의 전통 무술인 태권도는 어떨까요? 현재 태권도는 전 세계 수억 명의 인구가 연마하고 있을 정도로 세계화에 성공한 한국의 무술이자 문화입니다. 태권도가 전 세계에서 인정을 받고 있음에도 중국과 일본에서는 태권도를 폄하하기 위해 태권도가 실전에서는 아무런 쓸모가 없다는 주장을 계속하고 있죠. 하지만 태권도는 이미 많은 격투가들이 실전에서 사용하고 있고 민첩한 움직임과 강력한 한방의 힘 또한 크기 때문에 태권도의 위력이 주목받고 있습니다. 미국에서 CSD 아카데미를 운영하고 있는 랍은 15년 이상의 경력을 가진 무술가입니다. 랍은 여러 무술의 장점을 모아 타격, 클린칭, 그래플링으로 구성해 전투와 개인 보호를 위한 현실적인 무술을 가르치는 CSD 아카데미를 운영하고 있는데요. MMA 훈련 방법과 실용적인 자기방어 전술 및 체력 개발을 사용하여 링뿐만 아니라 외부에서도 자신을 지키고 생존을 위해 싸울 수 있도록 훈련합니다. 최근 랍은 태권도가 실제 싸움에서 어떻게 유용한지 설명하는 영상을 올려 많은 무술인들의 공감을 받았는데요. 해당 영상을 번역해 공유합니다.
If you've spent any amount of time on martial arts YouTube, you probably noticed that basically everyone has one opinion they all share, and that is that Taekwondo sucks. It's bad, it's weak, and it's definitely not useful for fighting. Is that true? Yes, but actually no. In this video, and probably to the surprise of everyone, I'm going to go over why I think Taekwondo is very useful for fighting, why it's pretty cool, and the one reason why it does suck. Alright, to do this properly, let's just do this in list format. Let's list all the reasons that people dislike Taekwondo, and I'm going to go through each and every one of them and explain why that's not necessarily true or not necessarily a criticism of Taekwondo. The major criticisms I see of Taekwondo are A, that it's too watered down and it looks more like tag with your foot, 2, that its kicks are not very strong, and 3, that they don't have any hands. Those are all valid criticisms, but like I said, they're not necessarily a reason that Taekwondo sucks. So what makes Taekwondo watered down? Unfortunately, I think that happens to be a byproduct of its success. I can't pinpoint this on exactly one person, but I can say Taekwondo grew and exploded in the United States, and really worldwide. It is without a doubt the most popular martial art for children, and therefore the most popular martial art, period. You can find a Taekwondo gym in basically every single strip center in the United States. And that by itself doesn't mean the system is necessarily bad, but it does mean they have a program that can easily appeal to a broad number of people. So yes, you might get the hardcore fighter who wants to use Taekwondo to learn how to kick someone in half, but you're also going to get the soccer mom who just wants her kid to have something fun with discipline and structure to do after school. Those are both valid reasons to practice martial arts, but if you want to be able to get the most amount of people in your room, you have to appeal to the lowest common denominator. And that lowest common denominator, by and large, is going to be the hobbyist, whether we're talking about adults or kids. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to run a McDojo, and that doesn't necessarily mean that all Taekwondo programs are a McDojo. Yes, the structure can easily lend itself to that, but that's not really the style's fault. That really honestly is more about the organization and the instructor running the business itself. And the reason we know this isn't a problem with Taekwondo specifically is because there's thousands of gyms out there offering cardio kickboxing and cardio boxing, where you're not really practicing to fight, but you are using fighting movements to get a fun workout in. And nobody's saying that boxing doesn't work in a fight. Now let's talk about criticism number 2. Taekwondo kicks are weak. Look, there's a lot of things that go into someone's kick being weak. How much do they weigh? How long have they trained? Are they actually trying to hit hard? I've sparred with dozens of Taekwondo black belts and high-level color belts, and I can tell you, without a doubt, those guys kick like a train. The fact of the matter is, it really depends on how you're practicing. If you're training to use your kicks with accuracy, speed, and power, then you're going to be able to throw them with accuracy, speed, and power. But if you're only training to hit random targets while you're spinning in the air, and not super concerned about how hard you're hitting those targets, then yeah, you're not spending enough time developing power. And here's really where we can talk about why Taekwondo is considered weak. By and large, and in a sweeping generality, Taekwondo is practiced in semi-contact point fighting, which means they're not actually trying to knock each other out or break any bones, they're trying to score a point. And we can go back and forth about whether that's a valid way to practice combat, but it is a sport unto itself. You don't judge a baseball player by his ability to play football. If you're practicing Taekwondo to get good at point fighting, then you need to be judged at how good you are at point fighting. But if you take Taekwondo from the realm of point fighting and put it into full contact kickboxing or MMA, yes, they're going to be at a disadvantage. Anytime you take any stylist from a semi-contact sport to a full contact sport, there's going to be some growing pains. And that might mean the pain is on their end. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be bad at full contact, but they definitely are going to have to make some adjustments. You're only going to be good at what you train for. So while you might be good at point fighting, if you don't train to hit full contact against resisting opponents that can hit you any kind of way, then yeah, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But that doesn't necessarily mean the style is weak. And look, physics are physics. It doesn't matter if you're making contact with your shin, the ball of your foot, your instep, or your pinky toe. If you swing it fast enough, with enough force behind it, and it makes contact on soft tissue, it will hurt. Yes, you might do more damage if you make contact with a larger bone like the shin, but if you train to do damage with the ball of your foot, you can do damage with the ball of your foot. Now yeah, this also is impacted by the sport that Taekwondo competes in. In a world of point sparring, where a simple touch can result in a point or not, it makes more sense to kick with the foot, which is easy to pull away and therefore minimizes the risk of a counterattack, than it is hitting with the shin, which while it does more damage, does expose you more to a counter. But that isn't to say that A, the kicks aren't strong, and B, that Taekwondo fighter can't also hit with the shin. So yes, while the general Taekwondo fighter doesn't kick as hard as the general Muay Thai fighter, that doesn't mean they can't kick as hard, it just means they don't need to. And now, let's talk about criticism number 3, which is that Taekwondo doesn't have hands. Yes, Taekwondo fighters have their hands down low. They don't really move their head, and they're not very good at punching. You know who else isn't very good at punching? 99% of people that don't train in a boxing-based martial art. Yes, you might train in a system that has striking, but that doesn't mean you know how to strike. Unless you devote actual time to learning how to throw a straight jab and a straight cross, you're probably not very good at it. And that's not to disparage other people that aren't expert boxers. I'm just saying that Taekwondo players focus so much at getting good with kicking that they can be excused if they don't know how to punch, especially when compared to the person that doesn't know how to do either. And on that note, the reason that Taekwondo players keep their hands so low is not because they think their invisible head movement is so good they're never going to get hit, but because keeping your hands low serves as a great counterbalance so you can throw your kicks much faster and with much more balance. And while we're talking about Taekwondo kicks, what they lack in punching, they make up for with the variety of kicks they have. They don't only rely in front and roundhouse kicks. They also have side kicks, hook kicks, spinning kicks, jumping kicks, flipping kicks. They took out the upper body to really maximize the ability of the lower body. And while we're talking about that, in order to get as good and as versatile with their kicks, they, by necessity, had to remove the threat of punching. And honestly, I don't know why we don't flip that situation when we're talking about boxing. Because if we're going to complain that Taekwondo is spending too much time focusing on their feet, boxing literally only focuses on their hands. But no one ever says that boxing doesn't work. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons why that is the case, because obviously we have professional boxing on TV, and they spar like crazy to know that they can make that work, but a simple low kick has taken out dozens of boxers in the cage. And same token, a good 720 kick against a boxer who doesn't know how to keep their guard up can also knock them out. So, if we're going to say that Taekwondo eliminates one part of the body to their own detriment, we have to say the same thing about boxing, because ultimately, Taekwondo is just boxing for your feet. But actually, that's not entirely true, because people think that boxing just means punching, but really, if we're going back down to what boxing actually means, it means attacking, or punching, from a position where your opponent can't punch you back. It's less about just brawling, and more about strategy and tactics. That's why we don't call it brawling. But in that case, Taekwondo is less about putting yourself in a position where your opponent can't hit you back, and more about just getting it there before they can hit you. So they're kind of the same, but not really. Anyway, that's a tangent. But here's the main problem with saying Taekwondo sucks. By and large, the people that are saying this aren't entitled to that opinion. They're not trained or informed enough to understand why they're saying that. Now look, I'm not saying that if you don't train in a martial art, you can't criticize that martial art, but what I am saying is the people who are complaining about Taekwondo, rightfully so, come from a well-informed, knowledgeable position. People who have either fought against or fought using Taekwondo in full contact tournaments or competition tend to notice that Taekwondo hasn't done very well. And yes, we should defer to subject matter experts, but we should also understand that we're playing a game of telephone with them. When they say something like Taekwondo sucks, there's nuance and context to that. But as that message gets passed on from person A to B to C all the way to Z, that message gets reduced down to just Taekwondo sucks. And now, people don't have an informed opinion, they just know, as a fact, because everyone's saying it, Taekwondo sucks. But if you don't understand the context for that, you really aren't entitled to that opinion. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole, I'm just saying understand there's usually some kind of nuance and some kind of context when someone makes a statement like that. Bottom line, I think Taekwondo is extremely useful for full contact fighting and obviously point fighting. Having more versatility in your legs only makes you a better fighter if you know how to actually use them. It's not great if you can only land them on paddles or on wooden boards. If you can land them on a resisting opponent, more power to you. And if you're saying that Taekwondo sucks, I want you to ask yourself, does it really suck or do you just not know what you're talking about? So anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something.
여러분의 소중한 의견을 남겨주세요. 바쁘시더라도 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 지금까지 단골이시였습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.